We say good morning to Pete Prisco, senior NFL columnist for CBS Sports. Been a while since we've talked to him. Good morning, Pete. How are you?
What's up, guys? How are you?
We're doing well. We are looking forward to the game in less than 12 hours now. It's a big one in the NFC as the Commanders travel to Lambeau. Both teams 1-0. Both teams impressive in week one. I would say that the Commanders' offense could have looked a bit crisper, but their defense was awesome against the Giants. Part of that's the Giants, and they're not very good. How do you handicap this game tonight in Lambeau?
It's going to be a tough game for the Commanders. I think anytime you head out on the road on a Thursday, particularly in that kind of environment, it's tough to do. Mm-hmm. It's a real challenge for them. I mean, and the same would be true if you flipped it over and the Packers had to go play, in Washington. So I think it's definitely tougher on Washington, but we saw a lot of good things from that defense last week. And again, you mentioned it. The Giants are terrible on offense. Russell Wilson stinks, and the offensive line's really bad. But I thought there was some steps in the right direction for that defense for Washington.
How are they going to stop Micah? Micah just looked like he was on a mission last week. I know he was only in for about 30 plays.
And he was on a mission the last time he played us.
Yeah.
And we had to pull Jaden after the first half.
How do they stop
him? Run at him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. You got to run the ball. And, you can neutralize him and his effectiveness in the passing game by running at him. And he doesn't, he's not a great run player and he's not a big physical guy. So I think if they can run at him and get the run game going, I think that's important. The other thing is it's not just him on that defense. In fact, I picked that Packers to go to the Super Bowl before the Parsons trade. And the reason being, a lot of those first-year guys who played a lot last year are now second-year guys, and the second-year guys are third-year guys, and third-year guys are fourth-year guys. And those guys, they were the youngest team in the league last year, and they played a lot of football. And you're starting to see it. Adrian Cooper is a beast at linebacker. Van Ness took a step in the right direction last week and they had a really good camp. All summer they raved about him. Wyatt, he's another young player that's starting to emerge on the interior. And they already had good players and guys like Gary. So I think what you're seeing is he's the last piece to what is a really good defense. And people question their secondary, but boy, I'll tell you what, the safety tandem is outstanding with McKinney and Williams. And the corners are better than people give them credit for. So that's going to be a challenge for that Washington offense. And you mentioned the Washington offense. They did some good things, but they also struggled. And I think some of those offensive linemen, Coleman had a struggle at left guard. I think Connolly struggled, which is natural for a rookie right tackle. But they got to be better up front.
What do you think of the addition of Deebo Samuel to this offense here in Washington? He made an immediate impact in the win over the Giants. 10 targets. He had 7 grabs. He had the rushing touchdown as well. He just adds another physical element to this rushing offense here.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Deebo. He's playing for a contract. Mm-hmm. So he's in the best shape of his career. He's, clearly wants to try and get a big, next big contract. And I think he's focused, and that's a good thing for Washington. I mean, he's a physical guy. He can do a lot of things. He's not going to run by anybody, but he's a physical guy. And when he catches the football, he's got the ability to break tackles and turn them into big plays. So I think a focused Deebo Samuel, the way he is and as healthy as he is, and he looks, in great shape, which he says he is, then I think that's a good thing because he's playing for, a contract and Washington can kind of feast off of that.
Yeah, he was a beast last week. We were talking about your power rankings, and I get it. It's only 1 week in. But if Green Bay wins and they've beaten Detroit and they've beaten Washington, okay, 2 playoff teams from last year, I got to imagine you're going to skyrocket the Green Bay Packers maybe from 3-1. I'm just guessing, depending on what happens with the Eagles game. But if Washington wins, they may go from 6 to top 2 in the Pete Prisco rankings. Yeah,
and if Washington wins, I think that speaks even stronger statement more than if the Packers win because you're at home. I mean, you're at home. The Packers should win that game. On a Thursday night, you're supposed to win that game. Mm-hmm. But if Washington goes in there and wins that game, that serves notice to the rest of the NFC to say, hey, look at us, man. We're really good. And so I think it's maybe more so of a proving game for Washington.
We're kind
tonight.
Of free rolling. I like it.
Yeah. You go in there. If you go in there and they win that game, I mean that's definitely a strong statement, particularly after what the Packers did to the Lions last week. They totally choked off their run game. They did nothing in the run game, and we know that's what the Lions want to do. So I think this is a big opportunity for Washington to show people how good they are.
Where do you think Dallas is after watching them 1 weekend? Were you surprised by the offense there looking pretty good?
No. I mean, Carter was out of the game. That changes the way you play them. But no, I think that offense is going to be good all year long. The offensive line, they've used a lot of assets on that line. There's a lot of good players. They're young, but there's a lot of good players on that line, and he's got weapons. Pickens and CeeDee Lamb now has somebody opposite him, and Dak Prescott's a good player. People forget the last full year he played, he led the league in touchdown passes. So I think they do need to get the run game going. I think once Jaden Blue gets all the way healthy, he's going to be the guy. He's a big play threat. So I thought the offense was really good, and I think it will be really good. There's still concerns about that defense. They played well the other night at times, but I think there's still some major concerns about that defense.
So, Pete, the blurb that you have for the Cowboys' opponent in Week 2, the Giants, who you have ranked at number 29, the sooner they get to Jackson Dart, the better off they'll be. Russell Wilson isn't the answer. We saw Russell Wilson just looked skittish and shell-shocked in Week 1 here against the Commanders. If he struggles again in Week 2, which I think he will, do you think he gets the plug pulled on him for that Week 3 game at home against the Chiefs?
I think they're worried about not having Andrew Thomas in the lineup. And so, do you want to rush him behind a really bad offensive line? But I, personally, and I've been a big proponent of this for a long time, you play the kid. And the reason you do that is you find out what you have in him. And these guys all say, well, what happens if he goes in there and he doesn't play well and he struggles? Do you ruin his psyche? Well, if he ruined his psyche, then you drafted the wrong guy in the first place.
That's what I've always said.
Yeah, go play. And so I think I'd play him. And if Russell Wilson, you guys saw him last week, his eye level came down. He looked at the rush. He doesn't move like he used to. He doesn't throw the ball into the intermediate areas. He never throws into the middle. And so I think they just kind of sit him down and play Jackson Dart and go from there. And by the way, if you're Brian Dable, if you play Dart and even if you don't win a ton of games, but he shows progress, they're probably going to keep you. The reason being they don't want to, make him start over again and learn a new system. So I think the sooner they get to that, the better off they'll be.
Talking to Pete Prisco, NFL insider for CBS Sports. So the news just came out here in the last half hour or so that Brock Purdy's going to be out 2 to 5 weeks. Mac Jones is the backup. Do they go out and make a move? You're starting to hear just a little bit of whispering about Kirk Cousins' names, for example. What do you think happens here in San Francisco with Purdy being out for a significant amount of time?
Well, Mac Jones isn't winning games. So if they think they can, if it's one game, that's one thing. But if it's 5 games, that's a disaster for the 49ers because he's not very good. Remember, though, they wanted him at one. There was rumors that they wanted him back in the day when they picked Trey Lance. There were people in that organization who wanted him. Mm-hmm. And, because, Kyle Shanahan thinks he can take a guy like that and fit him in perfectly. But after watching him all last year when he played in Jacksonville, he's terrible. And he was bad in New England. So I think if I were them, I would call the Falcons on Kirk Cousins and see what I can get for him, see what I can get him for. The Falcons have bad blood against Kirk Cousins, though. There's both ways. I mean, they held him there. He wanted to leave. They wouldn't let him leave. He made some comments last year about the injury when he said they kind of didn't reveal the injury when he was hurt, and that kind of set the team off. And so there's bad blood there. So if you're the Falcons, do you want to let him go to San Francisco in that scenario if the 49ers indeed do come calling? It depends what they offer him. If they offer him enough, they will. If they don't offer him enough, then I think they make him sit, and the 49ers are stuck with Mac Jones, and that's not a good thing.
Pete, we know you cover the Jaguars very closely. They had an impressive win over the Panthers in Week 1 in the first game of the Liam Cohen era. Kind of break down that win. What do you see from the Jags going forward? And I saw the news that came out, I think it was either late yesterday or today, that Hunter's going to get more reps on defense in Week 2 going forward.
Well, they were physical last week. I mean, they ran for over 200 yards, and it's interesting how a coaching shift can make that happen. They were much more powerful on the offensive line. I think the scheme was good. Liam Cohen's done a nice job. He did a nice job in Tampa when they ran the ball with Bucky Irvin last year. So I think that's something to keep an eye on as well. But I think as far as Hunter, the plan was always for him. When he first went there, he worked all on offense and a little bit on defense. And so I asked some people, I said, what the heck's going on? They said, well, it's harder to learn the offense than it is to learn the defense. Mm-hmm. So they figured they'd keep him there. But the plan was always for him to be a starting corner and then, be a 30-play guy on the offense. Well, that changed because he hurt his shoulder. he hurt his shoulder with about 15 days, 12, 13, 14 days in training camp, and missed some time and missed a workout with Miami. They had a practice with Miami. He didn't take part in it. And so they said, okay, well, let's let him play offense and then we'll work him in on defense. And so I think the plan initially was for him to be the starting outside corner and then spot in as, 30 play guy as a wide receiver. And that changed when he hurt his shoulder.
Pete, even though we're only in week 2, there are some teams that are 0-1 that are kind of in must-win spots. I understand that, you go 0-2, you can still make the playoffs. The Ravens did it last year, but Ravens are, their roster's legit. But some of these teams, like the Chiefs lose to the Eagles, they're 0-2. I don't know what the percentage is with the added game of making the playoffs at 0-2 is, but I'm sure it's not great. We talked about Dallas playing the Giants. I don't see him losing to the Giants, but it's certainly a possibility. There's the Dolphins, who were just atrocious last week in a kind of a must-win spot at home against the Patriots. Which one of these teams that are 0-1 could possibly go 0-2 in your mind?
What about the Lions too?
Oh yeah, the Lions too. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I don't think the Lions are going to lose. I don't think the Dolphins will lose, although they could. And if they lose, by the way, Miami's got a problem, because here's Miami. If Miami lost at home to New England, they go to Buffalo Thursday. If they lose that game Thursday to Buffalo, then I think you could see a change.
Yeah.
And so Miami better, if Mike McDaniel wants to keep his job, he better win on Sunday. So I think there's desperation at play there. The problem is there's two of their linemen on the right side, which is never a good offensive line to begin with. They're not going to play. So it's going to be problematic for Tua, and he's banged up a little bit. So I think Miami is facing a must-win this week. I think the Chiefs are almost facing a must-win in large part because their whole season isn't about getting into the playoffs. It's seeding and being able to play those games at home, and I think that could be a problem. So I think those two teams are definitely in must-win situations this week.
And the Falcons going to Minnesota on Sunday night.
Yeah, and look, I wasn't one of those guys that believed in the Falcons. I think Tampa Bay is clearly the best team in that division. But when you look at it, if you fall to 0-2, that's tough in that division, because Tampa Bay's got a good team, and they didn't play great last week and found a way to win that game. But there's another team. Tampa Bay goes to play the Texans. The Texans can't fall to 0-2 either. Right.
Yeah, that's Monday night. Real quick, do you think, let's just say Minnesota or Miami plays awful and they lose to the Pats? Do you see and then Tyreek's, bitching and moaning on the sideline? Do you see them trying to move him?
I think there's, if somebody wowed him with an offer, they would move him. I mean, get him out of there. I mean, he's been a problem, and they know that. Here's the problem in Miami. Mike McDaniel's the problem in Miami. He was very easy on his players. He's the cool coach, and even at the end of last year, he said, well, I find the guys, and kept finding them over and over again. They were still late. Well, that's on you. You're the head coach. You got to do something about that. And Jalen, you hear stories about Jalen Ramsey walking out as practice is starting, and and now all of a sudden he's going to try and be disciplinary, and you can't change. And so he's the problem. But as far as Tyreek Hill, is he worth the headache? And for Miami or any other team, and that's right. The team that trades for him. We give up what? What would you give up for him? A 4?
I don't know. It's
what I mean.
Yeah. You got to be desperate.
Here's the other thing too about him. I interviewed him in camp. I had him on camera, and we interviewed him. He said, "Yeah." I said, "You look like you're in great shape," because I'm in the best shape since I've been in Kansas City. I was 188 pounds when I got here. I was about 195. This is the hardest work I've ever put in my career. And I said to him, "Well, why haven't you been doing it your whole career then? Mm-hmm. What's the matter with these guys? Your body is your money." And you only have so many earning years in that body. Get as much as you can out of it. They just, some of these guys will never learn.
Yeah, sometimes they don't realize that.
He's busy having kids. This. Didn't he have like 4 kids in 1 year?
Yeah, but you can do all that and still train for 2 hours.
That's a good point.
It's a very good point. Pete, it's good catching up with you, man. We'll have to talk to you again soon.
You got it, guys. Take care. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, right, that's Pete Prisco, senior NFL columnist for CBS Sports, on the Rude Guest Hotline. Coming up next, John Kuhn, sideline analyst for Packers Network and former fullback for the Packers. He'll join us next to talk about Packers Commanders on a Burgundy Gold game day.